my objectives and what I found so far, and some of the problems I've uncovered while using the source material. So as you can see from the title, I focus on the Caliphates of Uthmān bin Affān and Ali ibn Abī Ṭālib. They were two very well-known caliphs that ruled from 24 to 41 after Hijrah, 644 to 661 CE. So they were the last two of the Rashidun caliphs, and the caliphs before them were Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Umar bin Khattab. The focus of my PhD is to ascertain the networks of power during the caliphates of Uthmān and Ali. So as the empire grew and they conquered new lands, the caliph needed representatives from Medina to carry out their rule in the distant lands. So the question is, who did they appoint? In most secondary and primary literature, Uthmān is usually accused of practicing nepotism by appointing members of his own family to positions of power. And in particular, he's accused of appointing the Abd Shams clan, whereas the governors of Ali are rarely discussed. So in this thesis, I aim to demonstrate who they appointed and what this can tell us about the political rule of the time. So at the moment, there is no comprehensive list available on their governors or their marriages, which would tell us how Uthmān and Ali conducted their selection when appointing governors, or how they chose to marry. So in this thesis, I present how we can use data to understand the decision-making of the 7th century. So first, I'll start with Uthmān. Uthmān was the son-in-law of Muhammad. He was a close companion and is reported to have donated to the early cause generously. He was appointed caliph through a council known as the Shura, and it consisted of about 6 men from the Quraysh tribe. The Quraysh dominated the political elite and they were the ruling power. So I've gathered information on 24 of Uthmān's governors. I've also compiled the list of information of 8 of his wives too, and their children and marriages of their children. And I can assure you there were many children. My current observations on the data illustrate that Uthmān did present a preference for appointing the Quraysh from the Abd Shams clan, but he did appoint men from different clans too. So when it comes to the selection of his wives, we find that he was a lot pickier and he married only one non-Quraysh woman from a Christian tribe called the Banu Kalb in Syria. And even when he married women from the Quraysh tribe, he was more selective and he married women from elite Qurayshi tribes. So some of the non-Qurayshi men that he appointed to position of governor was Al-Mughīra bin Shu'bah, who was from the Banu Thaqif in Ta'if. He also appointed men from the Banu Tamim in the Najd, the Banu Sulaym, and he also appointed men from lesser Quraysh clans. So I've also collected biographical data on his governors and their marital practices, and it appears that his governors were not as selective as Uthmān when marrying different women. However, Muḥāwiya bin Abi Sufyān, who was the governor of Syria, seems to have followed a similar pattern of marriages to Uthmān. Okay. So on to Ali. Now Ali was the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, but unlike Uthmān, he only married one of Muhammad's daughters, whereas Uthmān married 2, but not concurrently. Additionally, Uthmān was married to other women when married to Muhammad's daughters, whereas Ali married other women only when his wife Fatima passed away. And during Ali's caliphate, the political sphere was very, very turbulent, and there were 2 civil wars. There was the Battle of Sufyān and the Battle of the Camel. The main reason for these battles was that his opponents were seeking retributions for the killers of Uthmān. And this was an incredibly volatile period, but we can't get into that right now. The observations I have made from Ali's caliphate is that he moved away from appointing a large majority of the Quraysh men he also included the Ansar into governance. However, I found that he appointed 5 of his own first cousins to positions of power, so they were also his governors, and 4 were from the Ibn Abbas brothers, so the sons of Abbas ibn Abī Ṭālib. His marital patterns differ significantly from Uthmān's. He only married one Quraysh woman after his wife Fatima died, and he married several women from Iraqi and Central Arabian tribes. So finally, you're probably wondering, where do I get all this information from? I've used a number of sources. I used Tabari, Baladari, Ibn Sa'ad, Az-Zubayri, Ibn Khiyat, and Ibn Habib. Now, the first few are writers that were patronized by the Abbasids. There are other later sources that I consult, but these men have been my main companions in the last few years. The methodology I use is prosopography, and I combine it with reading the narrative sources to fill in the gaps. So, the last 5 minutes was a way to present a snippet of the data I've collected to inform us about the networks during the caliphates of Uthmān and Ali. And the three main findings of the work is that Uthman was slightly nepotistic, however he did appoint men from other Qurayshi clans. Ali did appoint men from his own family to positions of gubernatorial power, and also there's a question of the sources which I can't get into right now, but I'm happy to take questions after. So if you think fitting a round peg in a square hole is tough, try summarizing a PhD.